Next project is a step up. It's a step that I like to use before I have people do bowls. And it is a tea light holder. And what it is, it's the backs or the bottom of two bowls. And then I have them started on the inside of a bowl as their next project. So we're going to get rid of our drive spur here. Most of my turning now is smaller diameter. I had done pieces up to 48 inches in diameter, and I found out the older I get, the heavier the wood is. So I have started doing smaller pieces, and I'm having just as much fun and actually making more money quicker and easier. We'll talk about money a little more later. Stronghold, or talon chuck, I'm sorry. Recess or tenon? Which one's stronger? How many think a tenon's stronger? How many think a recess is stronger? How many of you are asleep already? Come on now, this is audience participation. Recess is stronger, unless you've got a real thin edge out here. If you're a small bowl and you've got a real small edge, you've got to be careful. Either one, if you over tighten, is more dangerous than snug. You can, especially on green wood. Green wood is soft and will bend. With that one lopsided piece. Yeah. I don't have to do it. That would hold it. Safety-wise, I will always bring up my tailstock when I can. It's a little extra safety. It's a precaution that I like. I'm a little old man that wants to be an older little old man. I gave up on getting taller. Let's get it in my glue. I want to talk about grain of the wood. And this is the best example of grain that I can find. On a bowl, you've got end grain part of the time and side grain part of the time. When you're cutting on the outside of a bowl, you want to cut from the inside coming out. That pushes grain together so it compresses it and cuts it off. If you go this way, it pulls it out and tears it. Now I will shape this way, but my final cuts will always be from the inside coming out on the outside. When you go to the inside, it just reverses. If you go from the outside, or yeah, get this right, you want to start on the outside and go like this. There we go. Start on the outside and go in. It compresses the grain. If you come from the inside and pulls out, it's going to tear it. And it's an insignificant difference until you go to finish it. I'm not going to do very much sanding tonight. If you want a private sanding lesson, I'm available tomorrow morning from 5:30 to 7 in the morning. And it's only $199, so it's okay.
Just don't wake me up.
Don't wake you up. Sanding, in general, I spend twice as much time sanding and finishing as I do turning. Now, to put that in perspective, my first bowl took me 3 hours to make. And it took me 2.5 hours to sand. The last bowl I did probably 4 weeks ago, I spent 10 minutes in turning it and probably spent 25 minutes in sanding. It's repeat, 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 and practice, practice, practice. All right, so we're going to start, and I'm going to round it off flat first. Normally I don't do that, but I want you to see proportions. Get rid of my wood grain here. And I don't round mine off coming across here and beat myself to death. I'm going to come in from the side and just push it across. And it doesn't matter which way, right to left or left to right. A new piece of wood in the lathe, everything looks good. Turn the speed down, turn the lathe on, bring my speed up. And as I bring it up, I'm not sure I'll lock that, so we'll double check. And we're running right about 2,000 RPM. The piece is close to round, there's no vibration on the lathe, so I'm comfortable with that. I'm going to cut straight across, so wherever that bevel is pointed is where it's going to cut. And I just want to clean it up and find out my size. So I'm going to sneak in. The tool's on about a 40-degree angle up with the flute. Slide in. The front hand is along for a joyride. It's doing nothing more than being safe. All the work is being done with the back hand. You don't need the front hand there other than safety. So I'm going to put it back up. Now, almost 220 start, but it's shiny. Shiny is not your friend. That means you bent those fibers over and pushed them in and polished them. How many of you have ever finished a piece and the streaks from Hades appear? You don't know where they came from because you sanded and sanded. And it's those fibers that you bent over and they look polished and shiny, and then all of a sudden they got soft and they straighten back up and soaked in more finish that has an amber color to it and it causes streaks. So you want to do that cut with as little back pressure as possible. I'm going to drop the handle. I'm going to have the side of the tool rubbing, not cutting. I'm going to rotate till it starts to cut. And this is, right there it is. And I'm going to have angel hair coming off. This is a finish cut. Got a little vibration because I came off the tool there. Minimal pressure on the wood. And when you see that coming, that means you just sanded at 220 degree, or 220 grit. All right. Now, I'm happy with that. Didn't need to go that far, but I wanted you to see the tool. 1/3, 2/3 general. So here would be about a half, and I'm going to say this part's going to be a 1/3, and I'm going to shape my top down to that. And this is going to be 2/3 to come up from the bottom, and I can do most of that right where it is. I'm going to bring my tool over here. Remember I said sometimes I shape going the wrong direction? Well, I'm going to shape going from high to low, but then I'm going to come and clean up and get my grain tear out as little as possible. So again, I'm going to make contact, light cut, make sure my hand is comfortable, and my body's doing most of the cutting. And this is doing two things. One is starting to get my shape, and two, it's making sure the face is flat, or parallel, I should say. And I'm almost down to my 3rd mark. I'm going to do another pass. And we're going to do one more just with our shaping. That's a little too much of a curve. Right now I'm going to do a shear scrape. It is a scraping cut, which means the top edge is almost touching, but it's slicing on the back side, so it should be a very clean cut. The handle's held low, and in fact I put it against my thigh and just slowly and easily drag it across. I raised it up too much because of the angle change. I want to clean that up a little bit. Got one little mark there I'm not happy with, so we'll work that out. My wife claims I'm a perfectionist, and I tell her no, it just has to be right. Okay. And I'm pleased with that. I got a little ridge line there, but I'm going to leave it there, and you'll see why in a minute. Now, just to be sure, I want to make sure that it's still on there tight and it wasn't the tailstock that was holding it. I'm going to take this out and put in a drill bit. I have a problem with people who use tea lights with real candle in them. Wood with a burning flame just doesn't work for me. So I use the electronic ones. I just feel safer that way. If anything ever caught fire with a candle, you might have some questions. I want to ask why you were selling a wood object with a flame in it. I'd like to say it would never happen, but I'm not that naive. When you cut a hole, make sure the lathe is running very slowly. All right, I want to be just a little deeper than my, well, maybe not. About the back of my bit is the thickness of the candle. So we're going to slow the lathe way down. We'll bring this up and hold it in place. Now, if you run the lathe fast, all you're going to do is heat up your bit and ruin it. So you really want it going slowly. Forstner bits, buy the most expensive bit you can buy if you're going to be using it a lot. If you need it for 1 or 2 holes, go to an inexpensive bit and know that you're going to replace it after the second hole. As long as I see shavings coming out freely, I don't back out. As soon as they stop, I will back out. Okay, that's the bottom and the depth of my hole. If I did my homework well, that should be just a little bit small the size of the candle. Back this out and get it out of my way. I've left Forstner bits in the tailstock, and I've left the live center in the tailstock, and I have 3 tattoo dots on my elbow. I don't recommend it. They're not very attractive. And these are my friends. You want a snug fit, but you don't want a tight fit, because you will want to take it out and change the battery from time to time. And I'm about a 1/16 inch from where I want to be. If you take a 1/16 inch off this side, you're going to be too big, because you also took a 1/16 inch off the other side, which gives you an 1/8 inch opening. And it took me forever to figure that out. You laugh, but sometimes I'm not too bright. I use a box tool, and we'll put it here so you can get a good camera look on it. If you'll notice, the side on my left is angled. That's so it can slide down the side of the box without the rod rubbing. And the bottom edge is slightly smaller than a 90-degree angle, so I can get in and make a good clean corner. It's used flat end, tilted maybe a little bit towards the cutting edge, but that's all. It's M2 steel. Used to be you could buy 5 rods for $3. Now you're paying $3.75 to $5 for one. So I've switched over to drill rod. It's a little more cost effective. I want my handle slightly high, so I'm cutting right on the center, and hopefully we can get it the first time. This also cleans up the cut from the drill bit. I think I'm a little tight, we'll see. And sometimes you get lucky. So it is easy to take in and out. It's got a little switch on the bottom to really brighten your life up. And makes a neat little tea light. The back side, I'm going to start it while it's still mounted like that and finish it up from the front. If you're not ambidextrous, it's a good time to learn. When I first started turning, I made myself use both hands so I could come in around on the back side. This is the good cut. It's going from small to large. Again, it's the bottom of the bowl shape and tool movement. Now I'm getting over my tool rest more than I'm comfortable with, and the lathe has leverage on me instead of me having leverage on the tool. I kind of like that angle there, so I'll stop with it. I've had more cuts from my third hand than anything when I put the tool here and then reach down to grab it and put a cut on the bottom of your hand. My wife hates to hear the words when I come in the house and say, "Honey, I need your help." That normally means there's red stuff somewhere. And I'm going to come in, start my groove, start rounding it out. Now, because of the headstock being in the way, I can't get any lower than that. So this top edge, I'm going to clean it up. And then when I remount it, if the centers aren't matched up perfectly, I can feather it in and nobody will know. I won't say I always remember it. I try always to turn the lathe off before I move the tool rest. One time I didn't, and it cost me $100 in buying a new chuck. Fortunately, that's all I had to buy. Doing that shear scrape again, the top edge almost touching and sliding right around. I got a little ridge there I don't like. In your shear cut, you can pretty well go both direct, or shear scrape, I'm sorry. Shear scrape can pretty well work both sides. Okay, I like that curve. The bottom needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Don't spin your chuck when you take it off. Spin the shaft. If you spin the chuck and it comes off the end and drops, that was a very expensive drop. They're designed to hit on this corner here and bend and break, so you have to buy a new one. The company spend hours on research of that. Now I am going to use everything I can to get this lined up as close to center as possible. The forstner bit leaves that little hole in the bottom, which theoretically is center. So I line that up on the live center, expand out. Doesn't get much better than that. I'll bring this up just to make sure. Again, don't have to. It'd probably be fine on that chuck. So now I can come out here and have plenty of room to do my upward cut. I'm still going to come down and do one shaping cut from here because it's just an easier direction to do it. Sometimes in this world you get lucky. I like it. When you like it, stop. Because when you go to make it better, 9 times out of 10 it's not going to work. Okay, doing that shear straight coming up from the outside to clean it up. Now on a shear scrape you can only go so far. I'm going to turn my tool rest so I can finish that up. And come on around. And I'm barely touching, just to work those two together so that they're feathered in. Now, a lot of wood turners will leave that recess shown, and I absolutely despise it. If somebody can pick your piece up and look at the bottom and say, that's where they mounted it, it's not a totally finished piece. And that's my philosophy. I don't ask that you buy it, it's just mine. Everything I do tonight is a way to do it. There's probably 10 ways to do every project I've shown, or will show. Try mine once or twice. If you've got a way that works better for you, please use it. All right, so now I'm going to get rid of my recess hole and camouflage it. And also, if it was a real candle, it opens up the base on it, so and if you do a real candle in one, put a hole all the way through the bottom so they can be pushed out. Because it goes down below the top level and melts in there, you can't get it out. I want to round that edge off so it's not a rough edge to sit on the table and scratch it. That's all it takes. Now, a person in doing that has done 2 bottoms of a bowl and ended up with a nice little tea light project.